First at 9 this Monday, the 25th of November 2024. Aid for power. Asian Development Bank approves $200 million loan to upgrade Sri Lanka's power sector infrastructure. Call for change. President Anura Dissanayake urges officials to submit proposals to strengthen the national disaster management framework. Incessant rains. Over 16,000 people in 7 districts severely affected due to inclement weather. Heavy rains expected to continue until the 28th of this month. Rescued. 32 Sri Lankans rescued from cyber camps in Myanmar.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe වැස්සත් මට්ටුයි ගෙදරත් තිස්නේ.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story this evening, the Asian Development Bank has approved a $200 million loan to upgrade Sri Lanka's power sector infrastructure. According to the ADB, the loan will help enhance the reliability of transmission and distribution networks while facilitating greater integration of renewable energy. The Sri Lanka Power System Strengthening and Renewable Energy Integration Project, supported by the ADB, will focus on improving system reliability, optimizing the existing fault clearance system within the Ceylon Electricity Board and Lanka Electricity Company networks, and fine-tuning the settings of the main protection systems. The project will assess the performance of the current protection systems associated with transmission lines, transformers and generators connected to the 220 kV and 132 kV networks. It also aims to improve the efficiency and reliability of the medium voltage distribution network. Upon the release of the loan, Takafumi Kadono, the Asian Development Bank's country director for Sri Lanka, stated that by expanding and modernizing infrastructure and incorporating digital solutions, the project will support the government's goal of increasing renewable energy integration into the electricity network. It will also reduce power interruptions and minimize transmission and distribution losses. The project is expected to introduce Sri Lanka's first grid-scale battery and energy storage system at the transmission level, establish a renewable energy center to forecast and monitor renewable energy generation, and implement network automation systems with supervisory control and data acquisition and remote terminal units. These will provide operators with real-time data and alerts to ensure efficient power delivery. The ADB also noted that the approval of this project reflects significant progress made by Sri Lanka in advancing power sector reforms aimed at enhancing financial sustainability, ensuring cost recovery, tariff revisions, and fostering competitive renewable energy development. Of the total loan amount of $200 million, $150 million will be allocated to the CEB, and the remaining $50 million will go to LECO.
Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
The disbursement of funds for the West Container Terminal Development Project of the Port of Colombo is facing uncertainty after the United States International Development Finance Corporation said it is reviewing the project in the wake of the bribery allegations levelled at India's Adani Group, which is jointly operating the project. The US agency said it will conduct due diligence to ensure that all aspects of the project meet its standards before any disbursements of the $553 million loan for the project are made. The US Securities and Exchange Commission on the 20th of this month issued a summons to Indian billionaire Gautam Adani requiring him to appear before the federal court in the Eastern District of New York within 21 days. The summons followed federal prosecutors issuing arrest warrants for the head of the Adani Corporation and his nephew Sagar Adani, alleging that they bribed Indian officials to secure power supply deals while falsely touting the company's compliance with anti-bribery principles and laws to international investors. Against this backdrop, the Adani Group's projects around the world have come under increased scrutiny, including the West Container Terminal Development Project of Sri Lanka's Colombo port. The United States International Development Finance Corporation, which is partially funding the project, is employing due diligence on the project after the allegations against the Adani Group chairman came to light. The US agency mentioned that it has not concluded a final agreement on the loan worth $553 million for the project and that it is reviewing the impact of the bribery allegations against the Adani Group's founder. The DFC agreed to finance the project in November last year, but the agency said it has not disbursed any funds. Meanwhile, the interim government of Bangladesh has appointed a committee to review the agreements between the Adani Group and the previous government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina amid concerns over a $2 billion coal-fired power plant. Additionally, the Kenyan government has cancelled a procurement process that would have awarded the Adani Group a $1.58 billion deal to renovate Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, as well as a separate $736 million public-private partnership deal with the Energy Ministry to construct power lines. Against this backdrop, the dollar-denominated bonds of Adani companies have experienced a significant decline, while 10 of the group's listed stocks lost $27.9 billion in market value over 2 sessions last week. Meanwhile, the allegations levelled at the Adani Group were taken for discussion at the Indian Parliament today, during which heated exchanges caused the session to be temporarily adjourned. India's opposition criticised the group continuously, claiming that it receives undue advantages due to its close ties with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. President Anura Dissanayake urged government officials to submit proposals aimed at amending and strengthening the national framework for disaster management. He made this statement while attending the occasion of the Deputy Minister of Defence Aruna Jayasekara assuming his duties. The newly appointed Deputy Minister of Defence Aruna Jayasekara assumed duties today at the State Ministry of National Security and Disaster Management. The occasion was graced by President Anura Dissanayake and commanders of the armed forces.
අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පොඩි කාලේ අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට අපේ රාජ්‍ය ගැන අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තේ ස්වභාවික අනතුරු අඩු ව්‍යසනයන් අඩු නායාම් නැති එහෙම එකක් ලෙස.
When we were learning about our country, we were taught that it only faced a few natural disasters. However, there is a significant difference between then and now. Many of the events we now label as natural disasters are in fact not natural at all. They are man-made disasters caused by human actions. If we examine areas frequently affected by floods and landslides, it becomes clear that these issues are often a direct result of human activities. While we have laws in place to prevent such occurrences, we have failed to effectively enforce them. Therefore, I urge you to adhere to these laws, and I assure you that we will not interfere with you doing so. Furthermore, if you believe the existing laws are insufficient, I encourage you to submit proposals to strengthen them. We must begin addressing this issue decisively and collaboratively.
අනපනත් ප්‍රමාණවත් නැත්තම් ඔගොල්ලෝ ශක්තිමත් කරන්න යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න අපි ශක්තිමත් කළ දෙන්න. මොකද මේක කොතනකින් හරි අපි පටන් ගන්න ඕනකම තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs Sunil Watagala also assumed duties today at the Ministry of Public Security.
There have also been discussions about the misuse of laws. Public trust in the legislature has been eroded with accusations that some ministers exploited loopholes in the constitution for personal gain. This ministry created one set of laws for ordinary citizens and another for those in positions of power, a practice that ultimately paved the way for a significant political transformation. This country has suffered greatly due to organized crime and drug-related activities. While the Inspector General of Police and other officials sought to combat these issues, their efforts were often openly obstructed by certain parliamentarians. I assure you that these political barriers no longer exist.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs Gamagedara Dissanayake and Upali Samarasinghe, who was appointed as the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Development, also officially assumed their duties today.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබිටිසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
ප්‍රයිම් ගෲප් ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන ලෑන්ඩ් ලීසින් ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
කැලණි වයර් කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. කැලණි ෆයර් ෂීල්ඩ් වයර්.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says vocational education should no longer be viewed as an alternative for students who fail examinations. Instead, the Premier is of the view that it must be a legitimate choice that is integrated with both the country's school and higher education systems. The Prime Minister made this statement while attending the event held on the occasion of the Deputy Minister of Vocational Education, Nalin Hevage, assuming duties at the Professional Training Authority of Sri Lanka. Deputy Minister of Vocational Education Nalin Hevage assumed his duties at the Professional Training Authority of Sri Lanka in Narahempita yesterday. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, who is also the Minister of Education, Higher Education and Vocational Education, attended the occasion.
අපේ අධ්‍යාපන ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ සහ අපි අධ්‍යාපනය පිළිබඳ දකින විදිය තුළ වෘත්තීය තාක්ෂණ අධ්‍යාපනය කියන දෙය පාසල් අධ්‍යාපනයේ සිටම උසස් අධ්‍යාපනය දක්වාත් විශේෂයෙන්ම ආර්ථිකයට ඍජුවම සම්බන්ධ වෙන ක්ෂේත්‍රයක්. ඒක දරුවන්ට ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් තෝරා ගැනීමක් හැටියට ගෞරවනීය සහ පැහැදිලි අනාගතයක් නිර්මාණය වෙන තෝරා ගැනීමක් විය යුතුයි. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් තමයි අපි වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ ආකල්පමය වෙනස සමාජය තුලත් අපේ අධ්‍යාපන ක්ෂේත්‍රය තුලත් හදාගන්න. නැත්නම් අර O level fail වුණොත් අට fail වුණොත් යන්න පුළුවන් තැන කියන සංකල්පය නෙවෙයි. ඒක නිශ්චිත තෝරා ගැනීමක් විය යුතුයි. ඒ වගේම ඒ සියලුම සංකල්ප ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න පුළුවන් ව්‍යුහාත්මක වෙනසක් අමාත්‍යාංශය තුල සිද්ධ විය යුතුයි.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of the International Liaison Department of the Chinese Communist Party, Sun Haiyan, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya at Temple Trees yesterday. The meeting was attended by high-ranking officials from the International Liaison Department of the CPC, along with the Ambassador of China to Sri Lanka, Chi Zhenhong, and officials from the Chinese Embassy in Sri Lanka. President Anura Dissanayake has appointed two new secretaries to the Ministry of Justice and National Integration and the Ministry of Rural Development, Social Security and Community Empowerment. Accordingly, President's Counsel Ayesha Jinasena has been appointed as the Secretary to the Ministry of Justice and National Integration. Meanwhile, Malalmati Gangadharan has been appointed as the Secretary to the Ministry of Rural Development, Social Security and Community Empowerment. The letters of appointment were handed over today at the Presidential Secretariat by Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Nayaka. Independent MP for the Jaffna district, Dr. Archana Ramanathan, publicly apologised for occupying the parliamentary seat traditionally assigned to the opposition leader during the inaugural session of the 10th Parliament held last week. He issued the apology today during a workshop on parliamentary procedures for new members of Parliament. As seating arrangements had not been made based on seniority during the inaugural session of the 10th Parliament, members were allowed to choose their own seats. Dr. Archana Ramanathan, the independent MP for the Jaffna district, opted to sit in the chair traditionally reserved for the leader of the opposition. A member of the parliamentary staff approached him to explain the customary allocation of the seat, but MP Ramanathan declined to vacate it. Following widespread criticism on social media regarding his conduct, Dr. Archana Ramanathan publicly apologised today in the presence of the Secretary General of Parliament, Kushani Rohanadira.
I was approached by 3 or 4 individuals who informed me that the seat I had chosen was traditionally used by the leader of the opposition. However, since the official website indicated that we could sit anywhere, I assumed the leader of the opposition could choose another seat. Otherwise, I have no specific reason for sitting in that particular seat. On social media, it has been alleged that an LTT member deliberately sat in the opposition leader's seat. I am deeply disappointed by this narrative, as my actions were not intentional.
I don't think we should go into a debate on this issue, but next time when you are in Parliament, you will be allocated with a separate seat for you. Thereafter, this issue won't rise.
Okay, I would like to publicly apologize that if I have done anything wrong, I'm in that manner. I'm really sorry. I was not hoping to sit in that chair and make a trouble. Unfortunately, it was an accident, and for every members of Parliament, including the President, I would like to get an apology for this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Dr. Ramanathan's recent remarks about Elam and the LTTE leader have also drawn significant attention on social media. In response, a group of attorneys has filed a complaint in this regard with the Criminal Investigation Department. Against this backdrop, Speaker of Parliament Dr. Ashoka Ranwala addressed the issue during a visit to Kandy yesterday. He commented on the potential actions to be taken regarding the conduct of the new independent MP.
When the incident occurred, no official parliamentary duties, such as the appointment of the Speaker, had been completed. Therefore, this matter did not take place during formal proceedings. As such, we cannot comment on it from a legal standpoint at this time. We will hold discussions with the NP involved as well as with other MPs to determine whether any disciplinary action is necessary. If it is deemed appropriate, we will act accordingly. We do not know his personal intentions. However, we are certain about the intentions of the people he represents. They do not seek to promote such ideas within the country. All MPs would agree on that point. That said, I believe continuing to focus on this issue and engaging in further criticism will not benefit us as we move forward.
Now, in your weather update, the Department of Meteorology forecasts that the incessant rains that have left over 16,000 people severely affected in 7 districts are expected to continue until the 28th of this month. As heavy rains continue prompting floods in areas across the island, the Department of Irrigation issued early flood warnings to 11 river basins today, requesting the residents of nearby areas to remain vigilant. Heavy downpours pelted several parts of the country today as the low-pressure area over the southwest Bay of Bengal intensified into a depression over the bay's central southwest region by this morning. As a result, cloudy skies were observed over most parts of Sri Lanka during the day. The 165.5mm highest rainfall within the past 24 hours was recorded from Kuchaveli in the Trincomalee district. Incessant rains also prompted floods in several areas in the Batticaloa district. Meanwhile, 2 sluice gates of the Peraru Reservoir in the Vaunia district were opened, which led to the inundation of the nearby low-lying areas. Similarly, sluice gates of several major reservoirs in the north-central province were also opened owing to the heavy rainfall. Several localities in Akurassa continue to remain submerged due to persisting floods in the Talagahagoda and Panadugama areas. The overflowing of the Kirama Oya in the Mathura district inundated some areas in Kamurupitiya. As heavy downpours continued, all 5 sluice gates of the Murutuvela Reservoir were opened, prompting floods in Hakuruvela and Talamporua. Additionally, low-lying areas in Valasmulla also remained submerged due to incessant rains. Meanwhile, in its latest report, the Disaster Management Centre stated that a total of 16,287 persons belonging to 4,410 families in 7 districts remain severely affected due to the persisting inclement weather. The DMC also noted that 1,136 people have already been directed to 14 safe locations across the same districts. Against this backdrop, the Department of Irrigation issued early flood warnings to 11 river basins. The Department of Meteorology, meanwhile, forecasts that the persisting adverse weather will continue until the 27th of this month.
Due to the influence of the prevailing weather system, we anticipate that the prevailing rainy conditions will increase in the coming days. We expect heavy rains of about 150 millimeters to occur in parts of the eastern, north central and Uva provinces. The other parts of the country, however, will receive rainfall between 75 and 100 millimeters. The persisting incessant rains will most likely continue until the 27th or the 28th of this month. After that, this weather system is expected to transfer to India. With that, the effect of the prevailing weather patterns will gradually subside.
Taking the current adverse weather into account, the National Building Research Organisation extended the warning level 1 yellow early landslide warnings issued to 6 districts yesterday for another 24 hours. Welcome back. Now, 32 Sri Lankan nationals who were victims of human trafficking and stranded in Myanmar have been successfully rescued following a coordinated operation. In an official statement, the Foreign Ministry revealed that the rescued individuals had been lured into cybercrime operations and subsequently became victims of human trafficking. The group, consisting of 24 men and 8 women, was safely escorted across the Mae-Sot border earlier today. They were received by Sri Lanka's ambassador in Thailand and are currently in the Tak province, where their immediate welfare needs are being provided. This operation marks the third successful rescue effort this year. Previously, in April and August, a total of 28 Sri Lankans were rescued through similar coordinated efforts between the governments of Sri Lanka, Myanmar and Thailand. Meanwhile, amid protests over the E8 visa system for seasonal employment in South Korea, Chairman of the Bureau of Foreign Employment, Kaushal Wickramasinghe, claims that the process of the troubled visa system must be approved through the Foreign Employment Bureau, which the former minister failed to complete. Addressing a press briefing today, the Bureau Chairman further emphasized that the visa system has fallen under the human trafficking category and therefore cannot be legalized. The E8 visa system is an endorsement where foreign workers receive the opportunity for seasonal employment in South Korea's agriculture and fisheries sectors for about 5 months. However, during the past few days, a group of individuals who had applied for South Korean employment opportunities under this visa category commenced a protest and satyagraha campaign in front of the Bureau of Foreign Employment in Battaramulla, claiming that their opportunities will be lost due to the negligence of officials. The demonstrators organized a march towards Colombo, demanding solutions for their issue. However, tensions heightened between police and protesters before the commencement of the march. The Bureau of Foreign Employment held a press briefing to discuss the ongoing issue.
Without
informing the government and while the relevant cabinet papers were being processed, the former minister had personally signed an MOU. After the signing, the Foreign Employment Bureau must be informed about it. Through the Bureau, the process must be approved through demand letters and business agreements. According to the information we have now, we know that some groups who are affiliated with the former minister have taken control of this visa system by training workers at external institutions. With that commencement, the embassy in Seoul commented on this issue, saying it has fallen under the category of human trafficking, where the country's citizens are being sent illegally to another country. We will take decisive action regarding this matter, and we have already filed a complaint to the Criminal Investigation Department. Internal audits have also begun on this matter. The Bureau is not attempting to sabotage these workers' opportunities. However, we cannot legalize this visa system. In the midst of the current E8 visa issue, a group who had received visas of the E9 category, who were qualified to return to South Korea for a second stint after working there once, launched a protest in front of the Foreign Employment Bureau. Sri Lankans receive around 6,000 South Korean job opportunities annually through the E9 visa system, which operates through a diplomatic agreement between the two nations. The protesters belonging to the E9 visa category also stated that they too would lose their employment opportunities due to officials' negligence.
The
E9 visa category has a 20-year-long history between Sri Lanka and South Korea. Around 7,000 to 8,000 skilled Sri Lankan workers travel abroad under this category. At the moment, there are around 30,000 Sri Lankan workers in South Korea. If the workers travel under the E8 visa category, they will have to pay around 1.2 million rupees to some foreign agencies, which is more than their salaries. Due to this reason, there is a higher chance of these workers leaving South Korea illegally, and some agents encourage these workers to do so, saying that they do not have to complete the 5 months contracts. The people who work under the E9 visa category met me and requested that the E8 workers who leave illegally will cause the quota of the E9 visa category to be reduced. Therefore, we request that they not do anything that will affect this category.
The Election Commission is set to convene this Thursday, the 28th of November, with a key focus on the upcoming local government election. The meeting will be the first since the conclusion of the 2024 general election. Significant decisions regarding the upcoming elections timeline and preparations are expected to be taken up for discussion during the meeting. The Election Commission is reportedly committed to expediting the election process following the court ruling emphasizing the urgency of holding the LG polls at the earliest possible opportunity. However, it is reported that challenges remain as no funds have been allocated for the election thus far. A final decision on funding will be available after discussions with the government, anticipated to address the issue through the vote on account scheduled for December. Meanwhile, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce has invited its members to submit proposals for Budget 2025 to tackle growth barriers and boost investments. President Derana, during his address to Parliament, said a budget proposal would be tabled in February next year. Against this backdrop, the Chamber of Commerce invites its members to contribute their insights for inclusion in its formal submissions on the national budget. Submissions must be made before the 5th of December through the email address eiu@chamber.lk. The Colombo Bourse closed in red today as a result of price losses in counters such as John Kills Holdings, Hatton National Bank and Sampath Bank. The broader all-share price index closed 1.44% lower at 12,866.65 points, while the more liquid S&P SL20 fell by 1.98% to close at 3,794.71 points. The market turnover crossed 2.1 billion rupees. The banking sector was the top contributor to market turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Welcome back. And now we have Ashini Vikramasuriya from Capital Alliance to round off our Markets in View segment for the week.
The domestic stock market dipped through the previous week. The S&P SL20 fell 2.6% to 3,871 from 3,977, while the ASPI fell 1.1% from 13,199 to 13,054 due to profit taking. Despite the indices' performance, market turnover increased by 33% to 23.2 billion rupees, boosted mostly by contributions from the banking sector. Furthermore, the government generated 145 billion rupees last week through treasury bill auctions.
National carrier Sri Lankan Airlines secured the Emerging Cargo Airline Award for a second consecutive year at the Arabian Cargo Awards in Dubai. Sri Lankan Airlines said this achievement not only highlights its investments in technology and advanced air cargo solutions, but also its commitment to delivering reliable and efficient solutions globally. Speaking of the achievement, Head of Cargo at Sri Lankan Airlines, Chaminda Pereira, said that this accolade also reflects the dedication and hard work of the Sri Lankan Airlines crew. And that's all the news we have for you today. Thank you for joining and have a good night.